Namaste, welcome to Musings by Masha. I am Masha, and like many of you, I have been spending quite a bit of time at home over the last almost 2 weeks. So, in Australia, as probably in the majority of the countries, we have been asked to stay at home for our safety as much as possible, apart from, of course, some exercise that we have to do, and those people who are allowed to work to go to work. I am not one of those people, so I've been spending a bit of time online, and I also have been reflecting on my tarot collection. So I've been kind of clearing my collection for quite a while now, but over the last especially these days, over the last few days, I've been going through some of my favorite decks, some of the decks that I really love, and then when this video idea came to my mind. So in today's video, I will be sharing with you my vintage tarot decks. And I will not be sharing with you historical decks as such, right? Although some of them are considered historical decks, but more the vintage tarot decks. And vintage, it's not a very clear term these days, is it? Some people think vintage is something that is 20 years older. Some people look at the 50-year mark. In my video, I will be showing you the decks that are over 30 years old that I have in my collection. So 30 years plus, 35 years plus since their printing year, right? So the vintage decks. And I will put a tag to this video as well, my vintage tarot, if you want to play along, because I'm just always so very curious, and especially as of recent, I've been really enjoying exploring some of the vintage decks. And this video is not going to be long. I only have 6 decks to show you. 6 decks to show you today. So let's begin with chronological order. Let's begin in chronological order. So the first deck I would like to share with you today is Ancient Tarot de Marseille, Tarot of Marseille by Grimaud. So it's printed in France, or printed probably in Belgium, but we'll have a look now again. But this deck, and I'm pretty confident actually that this deck dates 1963. So this particular deck is 8 years older than me, and and I think it's actually quite fascinating, right? So Tarot de Marseille, Grimaud. And the cards came in wonderful condition. I got this deck off eBay in Australia, and the cardstock is really nice. The cardstock, if you have your Bendo CBD tarot, is resembling that type of cardstock, and the cards are lovely. So we have the title of the cards in French and in English. They are the beautiful backs. I really love this deck, and I trust if you look at it historically, it probably not based on a convert, but I would think it's based on Claude Bourdelle, historic deck by Claude Bourdelle of 1751. But again, today I'm not sharing with you the historic decks as such, but more the decks that were printed over 30 years ago. So the coloration is really lovely, and I'm surprised that this deck is so old, but it just in such a good condition it came to me. So as you can see, it's been used a little bit, but not really much. Beautiful cards. And the cardstock, it feels very buttery. I'll show you a couple more. I trust this deck later was released in 1970, but I don't have any doubt that this deck is not 1963. But if you know that it's not, let me know. It's not like I mind, but that's what is written on the box, that's what is written in copyright of the cards, that this deck dates 1963. My next one is, you've seen this one on my channel. This is my favorite RWS, and it's the blue box. It's the Blushing Fool, Rider Company in London, 1961. And of course it's called tarot cards, but we all know that it's Rider Waite Smith deck. There are the backs. I really love this one. The cardstock is amazing. Again, it's another kind of battery cardstock, but it's not as shiny as the previous deck by Grimaud that I showed you. And of course, those images are very familiar to all of us. But what I love about this deck, of course, is the sharpness, the coloration, Pixies, Pamela Coleman Smith original font, and no copyrights. No, Blushing Fool. Right, so 1971, this deck dates. Next deck, we're moving on to 70s. This one dates 1974, and I've got it in new condition on eBay. This one is Tarot Classic, and it's printed in Belgium, and I believe it's 1974. So it's A.J. Muller, but also in collaboration with US Games with Stuart R. Kaplan. So A.J. Muller of Switzerland, but it shows that the cardstock, the box is probably made in Switzerland, but the cardstock is by Cartamundi, I want to believe, of Belgium. So I do have a full unboxing of this deck. I don't remember whether I showed only majors or some minors as well, but I will link it below if you want to have a look. Plate backs, little smaller cards again. So if you compare it with the Blushing Fool, kind of smaller Marseille style cards. Again, Tarot Classic. It's a Marseille deck, and it's the first Marseille deck that I've had with the English titles. The coloration of this deck is beautiful. It brings me joy to look at the deck. Color-wise, it's one of probably with mass published decks, it's one of my favorite ones, and it's still, I trust, can be purchased on eBay. Well, now we know lots of postal delays, but I just love the lines and the simplicity of the deck. Look at the Chariot. King of Pentacles. I'll show you some of the minors, the wands, just stunning greens. Yeah, so that's Tarot Classic of 1974. Really good condition. Well, I have it in brand new condition. I had it when I received it. Next one is 1975, and this is Spanish Tarot. So Spanish Tarot by Fournier. So the cardstock, the box, as you can see, it's quite beaten, but the cards are in really good condition of the deck that I have. So it's based on Classic Tarot of 1736. But again, instructions are by Stuart Kaplan, but it's printed in Spain by Fournier. There are the backs. The cards are once again a little smaller, and I want to believe they're probably about there. Yeah, pretty much. You can see just little bit smaller if you than the previous deck, than Tarot Classic. And yeah, so there are the backs once again, and the colors again in this deck are just absolutely beautiful. I purchased this deck due to the color palette. The line work is very sharp. So we have the titles here in English and in Spanish this time around. Hence it's called Spanish Tarot. Beautiful lime greens and lime yellows. And some of the minors. So the ones in this color palette. The cups, swords, they're more bluish and purplish. The cardstock is quite dreamy. So more of this. And some of the coins, suit of the coins, which is rather lovely as well. So that's the Spanish Tarot of 1975. And I have 2 more decks to show you, and both of them actually date 1983. So the first one I will show you is the Mother Peace Tarot round deck, and this one is one of my favorite decks. I was very fortunate that one of the people in Australia on our Facebook Tarot Trade and Swap Trade Buy group, she contacted me when I did kind of express my interest that I was after a vintage Mother Peace Tarot, and then I got this my copy very reasonably priced and in an excellent condition. I keep it in this bag that I got in India a few years back. I think it just it suits the deck really nicely, and the round deck fits in here. So the copyright on this deck is by US Games, and it does state that it's the deck of 1981. And probably the camera wouldn't zoom for you to see copyright 1981, and this is the year of my birthday, but I trust the cards themselves. They were published in 1982 or 1983, so I'm going with 1983. One of my favorite star cards. I just see so peaceful and beautiful. And this year I am exploring goddess energy, Shakti energy. So this deck has been quite powerful for me in its readings and the messages and my studies, because I also have a workbook which I was very fortunate to get from that same beautiful person who allowed me to have this beautiful vintage deck. So look at one more. And if you want me to do a walkthrough of any of this, as I mentioned, the Tarot Classic, I will put a link that I already have a walkthrough on my channel. So they are the bags that we are all quite familiar with, right? So yeah, that's Mother Peace Tarot. And the last deck that I have of my vintage deck, so I only have 6, is Thor's Tarot deck. And it's quite a large one. This one is also 1983 deck. And what I love about this one, and for a long time I was after Thor's deck that didn't have, well, because I'm very new to Thoth, right? So I don't know much about Thoth apart from the books that I've started to read. But I did want to have a bag that didn't have any borders, and this deck came. This deck is perfect for me in that regard. And also I wanted larger cards because I wanted to look deeper in the images. And I found this deck on eBay, and it turned out to be a greenie, I trust, because you can see the borders are green. And I mean, I know it's not a huge issue if the backs have borders, but for me it kind of is, because I like the front borders, right? And I still kind of want to see the keywords and all the references they are provided on the borders. So like the numbers, and yeah, as I'm learning, as I want to study this deck in a little bit more depth. So that's, for me, it was a pleasant surprise when I could find the one that with the backs, borderless backs. But also I must say, this deck made me really even more interested in Thoth. And I don't know, maybe because it's so vintage and faded, or whether it was originally like that, more muted colors and a little bit less sharper than the modern US Games versions. Well, I have the kind of medium, I trust version. But here I just see the, the detail I can see much better in the bigger cards. I think they're absolutely stunning. I love the colors, of course. And Lady Frida Harris's artwork is amazing. So And I can understand now that some people say that Thor's feels quite like as a cold deck to them, although they appreciate the artwork. And it did for me as well until I got my hands on this particular copy, which actually feels very gentle and warm for me. But once again, I don't know much about Thor, so I'm just sharing with you my first impressions of this card. And just a quick recap of the 6 vintage decks that I have. This deck is from 1963, Tarot of Marseille by Grimaud French publishing company. Then 1971 is when tarot cards conceived by A.E. Waite and drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith, that's what it says through on the side of the box, were published by Ryder and Company, London. This is a blush and full deck of 1971. Tarot Classic of 1974, cards printed in Belgium, box I trust, made in Switzerland, beautiful Marseille style deck. Next one is Mother Piece, again 1982-1983. And so it's got its own unique system to those cards. And of course the last one that I showed you was my vintage large greeny Thoth of 1983. And I would now love to hear about your vintage decks in your collection. So if you have a YouTube channel, if you are a content creator here, I invite you to respond to this hashtag, which is my vintage tarot. And if you don't create content on YouTube and you follow my channel, I'm so grateful for your time, for watching my videos, for your support. And I would love to hear about your vintage decks in the comments below. And tomorrow, which is Friday morning in Australia, I will be going live on my channel at 9:30 in the morning Australian time, Australian Sydney time, and I will be sharing with you, I will be continuing with showing some of the most prized, I guess, for me, decks in my collection, and I will be sharing with you my classic or my historic tarot decks tomorrow in my live. Thank you so very much for stopping by, for watching this video. I look forward to your responses, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Namaste.